This is log number 19. It's been 19 weeks so far, and as I'm recording this, I see that it's the 1st of March, which I want to say really happy month for everyone who's listening, and I hope this month brings more knowledge than the previous one. It sure did for me. Um, this week was all about looking at the remaining three designs in the room that I'm in. And my task was to look at the previous references and see if I want to update things as I gain new skills and new insights with my progress so far. And as I was witnessing the changes in my previous thought process, there were things that I wanted to retain, given that they're very true to the story, and it made me happy to see that even back then I had some clarity in what should stand out and how they would stand out as designs and in terms of story iterations and whatnot. And I specifically wanted to work on the left design in the row, and which I overhauled quite a bit. It was how can I describe this without spoiling a lot? In this room, compared to the other three that I've done, which is opposite this, the design and the statue lays in ruin in such a way that many of its sort of ruined pieces are around, but at the same time, the pieces by themselves don't really make the story in terms of the layer that it's supposed to be achieved. There is a different thing happening in the environment that it's sort of like a collective piece that when you're putting it together you begin to see the whole picture and what was happening here. It has a strong sort of connotation on the theme that I'm going for in this room, and I think it's going to become very apparent without really me going into details what is this about. But I'm going to give the sort of nickname that I gave this, and the nickname of this statue slash S is called Brothers in Arms. And I'm gonna let your imagination run wild with that, as it can be very obvious, but at the same time, it might not. But regardless, what I'm going to be prompting on the screen right now is something that I'm working fairly new and I want to be introducing in the design and the sort of audio logs process. This is the composition sort of narrowed down in shapes. So what you see here is some circles, some rectangles, and some triangles, and vice versa. The numerical index that you see within the sequence is the order of creation in the measurement scheme that I'm working on. This is a fairly new idea that I'm working on as well. Like, I haven't been doing this in the previous one so methodically, but now I wanted to introduce this and sort of show you shape-wise how the composition is coming along. So we see the first two numbers, 1 and 2, are circles. Those are the ones that I'm currently working on. You'll sort of notice that there's a 70% within the first circle. That's how far I've gotten into it this week. I've started working on it on Wednesday, I think, and Thursday. Friday, I didn't have time to work a lot on it. I did some measurements, but I had some other obligations that I wanted to do. And my hope is that in this week to come, I will tackle 2 and 3. So in compositional languages, when it comes to sort of showing focal points and the energy behind the composition that attracts or repels or brings into the background or the foreground comes into shapes. The triangle always is the focal point. So as you can see, number 6 is our focal point in this sort of particular design. But if you take 7, 2, and 1 together, you create a bigger triangle, which that is our center, given that 4 and 5 are the walls that sort of are happening in the background, and then whatever is happening in 7, 2, and 1 in that vicinity becomes the focal point, and then the next triangle becomes the focal point of the focal point. It's very methodical like that when it comes to compositions if you were to break them down into shapes, because it really brings out the sort of primitive approach of organic shapes and symmetrical shapes together. And my hope is that in this week I'm going to do 2, 3, and the next week is going to be 4, 5, and 6, and then 7 and 8. As you can faintly see an 8 there, that is a fairly new idea that I'm working on. It's part of the 7 sort of vicinity of shape, but the 8 is sort of a detail that I want to see if it can work or not. I will truthfully say that given that I'm working on a small scale and I'm so used to working on a big scale, I've been having sort of like this skill gap to feel, given that I've been so used to working in bigger mediums, and the amount of detail that I can put in bigger mediums is just endless. Obviously, there's just so many things that I can do. But in fact, it's such a challenge now to add the detail that I want, the markings, the textures, that is so faintly shown, and it could be summarized by a few line strokes. And it's a real challenge that I've been sort of trying to face since design number 1, and coming to design number 3 that I've done, and realize, wow, I'm getting better at this. So I have to go back and redo things is a must. And it's been wonderful. Although I'm not going to lie, I've been thinking of like, okay, let's make the next one bigger. Which, at least for this act, I want them to retain sort of like this small scale-ish size. When I say small, I mean A3 and A1, which is not that small, but it is considered small considering where I came from Flow. And yeah, it's a very methodical approach so far, and I realized that I'm getting better at it. And the current design that I'm working on, I would say, had the best start of all the other ones. I suppose it's because I've learned a lot, and my textural sort of the way that I shape and what type of measurements do I need and what type of measurements are just unnecessary. I sort of fine tune it as I go. But I wanted to touch upon something else in this week that I've been sort of considering on my mind. As I've been working on the moving forward part of the Stonemason and being in between designs and starting the new design, I've been sort of reflecting towards my website and how things have been going on that front. And it has been bothering me how weighted it felt for me. So I've been sort of trying to prune it down and really take things off that are unnecessary. And in general, like I've been feeling that my website has a very flow approach theme, overarching theme, which it is my previous theme, of course, my previous work that I've been working on, and it's just showcased excessively on the website. And I wanted to sort of take that off and put it on the back line as this is what I've done before, and bring forward the new things and the new changes. So I've been considering in taking away the prints and the shop part of Flow, except for the original paintings that remain, of course, just so that I take away things that are past and move forward with new intentions on bringing on the new things, and not really have so many things lying around and having to account for so many things. It's a bit bothersome for me, and I've been trying my best to really sell everything that is laying around that I have when it comes to sort of drawings and all that. I haven't really tried to sell the remaining paintings yet. Feels it takes a lot of energy that I don't want to spend on right now. But the small things that I have laying around, I want to get them off from me, so I have an empty slate to move forward and some funding to put back into the stonemason, which really help in the coming weeks and months when it's going to be necessary for the prototypes and alphas and whatnot. But it has been occupying my mind, the sort of spring cleaning. I mean, spring is coming, but sort of like getting off all this stuck up past sort of artwork and moving forward into what is happening next. Because I realize that I'm very terrible in updating people what I'm doing, except like even with the audio logs, I like it because it's simple for me. It's very personal for me. I get to voice out my opinions, voice out what is working, what isn't working, what is bothering me, what I'm liking, why am I liking this, and so on and so forth, which makes sense to me. But having to advertise and do this and the other thing and all the other parts of having your own sort of brand and all that is just too much for me. And I'm sure many connects. I agree on this, but I'm doing a terrible job at it clearly. So I'm trying to really empty whatever I have in stock. So moving forward with the stonemason and whatever comes along the way, it just feels much easier, much more. What is the word that will really describe this? Um, Not as incapacitated that I might feel with all this sort of baggage that I have with different projects and different parts of my life that are past, and I'm sort of like dragging them along like a dead horse. So within this month and the next one, I'm gonna be emptying it all out and really bringing flow back into its sort of behind the scenes, and now emphasizing on the things that I'm currently working as the more prevalent and the ones that demand more attention, both in my website and in my life. I'll be trying to do that, and hopefully, by the release of Act One, I can I can really and seriously get rid of all this. But yeah, regardless, I've been learning so much with the stonemason and having to be isolated and work with myself and really have myself as a compass. Whereas before it was voices and having, did I have a good day because did I have a good conversation with this person or the people that are around me or whatnot. No, it's more of having to grow as a person and grow as a creator with what I feel is important and what I feel is topical. And it's been a challenge. And I have to say, with the mixed media that I'm working on, it's been a blessing, and at the same time, it's been the push that I needed to really rethink about things. Because as I'm creating the designs now, if I'm thinking about this story, right? This story I've written it back in September, October, November, and then I picked up the designs. But then back then, I thought that this would have been like a 3 month thing, and now it's a year thing. And now I'm thinking, okay, once I finish these designs, I need to go back and really add the detail that I lacked before, and at the same time reread it and add sort of the designs with the story to be on part. And it's been exciting, if I'm honest. It's been exciting to think the relationship that these two can have now, and that it's not just as simple as it was before. I don't really think of it as simple, but it's much more simpler than it is now. and just to see how that will upgrade and overhaul as I did the textures last week, and me learning new things and going back and adding them into it and making this the best of my abilities, as cohesive and as entertaining and immersive as I can. I'm fascinated with that, but at the same time, I'm quite scared, and and I think they go together. Every new endeavor might feel scary and at the same time exciting to really witness. So yeah, without the long side note towards the end, week 19 has ended beautifully. A really strong start in the measurements, and with the compositional numbers that I gave you, I think it's going to be quite cohesive in direction that I will be taking this design. And hopefully 2 and 3 can be done this week, and I'll be moving on to the focal point in the next few weeks. Well, uh, until then, let's see what this week will have in store.